Hello and welcome to FXWB New Beginnings podcast with Michelle. How is everyone doing? Hope all is well and you are doing well today, even yesterday. We want to, in the month of February, talk about the heart. We want to talk about heart health, physical and emotional heart. So, we are talking this month about the heart as we celebrate Heart Month. Yes, it is the month where everyone share information on the topic of the heart, the physical heart, and also some people celebrate Valentine's. So, we look at the emotional heart as well. I want to share with you the concept of heart health, mental health, and stress, and how they all impact each other as we live. I'm going to look at this in different ways. This week, we are going to look at some research information covering what is heart health all about, what is stress all about, mental health, and looking at how we can find coping mechanisms to help us through a stressful or chronic stressful life. The following weeks, we're going to talk about ways of using physical activity to help us understand how we can de stress. Then, I am going to talk about functional nutrition and how that can help you. In particular, I'm going to dive in talking about sugars versus fats and how we can help our bodies stay healthy and keep our heart healthy and stay living better for the long run. So let's dive in today as we talk about heart health, mental health, and stress. Heart health and the four keys of well-being shift. Now, if you recall in November, I did a series talking about the four keys of well-being shift. Those keys are functional movement, functional nutrition, mindset building, and community building. Looking at these four keys, we are going to look at how heart health is impacted. There are some leading factors for heart disease and stroke. And the national risk factors and CDC mentioned a few of them. For example, high blood pressure, high low density lipoproteins. So LDL, you always hear that acronym LDL, cholesterol. If you have high low density lipoprotein cholesterol, that can be a leading risk factor for heart disease and stroke. Diabetes is also another risk factor you can think of. Smoking and secondhand smoke exposure can also be a leading risk factor for heart disease and stroke. The American Heart Association also mentioned three other things: obesity, unhealthy diet, and physical inactivity. Now, if you listen to these factors, we realize that these things can happen at any age. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. It doesn't matter your ethnicity. These things can happen to anyone. But we need to be able to control these risk factors so that we do not end up with heart disease or stroke. Stress and heart health can be an important area to look at when dealing with the health of your heart. Stress, everybody has it. It can be something that we are going through right this minute, or it could be chronic stress. Stress is a significant factor in us developing heart problems, or, for example, developing those things that I just mentioned before: diabetes, LDL being high, or smoking and secondhand smoke exposures. Those things that we can be exposed to, health risk factors, can be as a result of stress. But what is stress though? Stress can be defined as any type of change that cause physical, emotional, and psychological strain. Stress is your body's response to anything that requires attention or action. And this definition, I got it from the American Institute of Stress. And on their website, they have a slew of information with respect to understanding stress, stressors, how you can help yourself get rid of these stressors to help you live better. But I wanted to bring it to your attention today so that you can be mindful of what stress is. And I want you to contemplate on this. Stress can be defined as any type of change that causes physical, emotional, or psychological strain. And if we have this happening to us on a regular basis, this can become chronic stress. When we are stressed, our bodies respond to it in different ways. And we have to take time to deal with this stress to help us live better. The American Institute of Stress also states that job stress or occupational stress, this is far and away the leading source of stress for adults. Now, I know how it could be for me working different jobs and the level of stress I have when it comes to job stress. But if you're working in a corporation, you may be having signs of stress on the job, in the workplace. And it is said that it's one of the leading source of stress for adults. But guess what? Teenagers, younger generation, they are also being stressed in their daily lives. Think about children, teenagers, college students, and the elderly. They are all being stressed at this time. For instance, things like increased crime rate can be a stressor. Violence in a community, that could stress you out, right? And other threats of personal safety can be factors that can create stress emotionally or even physically or psychologically to an individual. And not only adults, this can be for children or teenagers. Think about bullying, for example, or cyberbullying on the internet. These things can affect us. It could affect our family life and even affect how we respond to others who may be trying to help us because we may not want to even share this information that we are stressed. In fact, I read an article from my ACSM program, ACSM meaning American College Sport Medicine. I am a certified personal trainer under that umbrella. And one of the fitness journals I read from last year, May, June 2023, they talked about stress in the workplace. This article is called Work, the Workplace, and Mental Health of Workers. They suggested in this article, based on findings, that in United States today, almost 20% of adults, approximately 52.9 million in 2020, live with mental health disorders. 52.9 million people in 2020. The American Heart Association estimates, based on national surveys, that among US employees, 76 struggle with at least one mental health concern. 42% have been diagnosed with a mental health disorder. And 63% of those with a diagnosis have not even told their employers what was going on with them. So, in the statistics here, we can see that this can be a large factor impacting our lifestyle in this time, 2024, on how we deal with stress. And if we even seeking out help for this situation. Because they said 63% of those with a diagnosis have not disclosed this to their employer. And this is 2020, we in 2024. So we know that there are a lot of people out there with at least one mental health disorder that is affecting them, and they haven't shared it. In fact, we have to think, okay, if this is happening to one individual, this is impacting their families. This is impacting them in their workplace or in any other community that they belong to. So, what are some common signs of stress? These signs are similar to many other things that may be going on with someone. So, they may not think it's stress, but they definitely, it can be a sign of stress occurring in their lives. If it is, we see some of these symptoms. So, for instance, changes in mood, clammy or sweaty palms, decreased sex drive, diarrhea, difficulty sleeping, digestive problems, okay, dizziness, feeling anxious, frequency in sickness, grinding of the teeth, headaches, low energy, muscle tension, especially in the neck and shoulders, physical aches and pains, racing heartbeat, and trembling. Now, you're hearing these symptoms or these signs, and they are quite similar to, for instance, someone in perimenopause, for example. They might be like, well, I'm always seeing those symptoms happening. But is it therefore that if you're in perimenopause, for instance, you are also stressed and this may be affecting you internally, like affecting your heart? and your mental well being. So, these are some of the signs of stress. We have to make sure that we understand and think about these signs or symptoms shared here can be ultimately affecting our heart health. So, we talked about stress in general, but what is chronic stress? The American Heart Association defines chronic stress as when stress is constant and your body is in high gear, off and on for days or weeks at a time. Wow. Let me say that again. Chronic stress is when stress is constant and your body is in high gear, off and on for days or weeks at a time. Chronic stress may lead to high blood pressure, which can increase risk of heart attack and stroke. All right. So again, this is not just for ladies, men as well. If we are having episodes of chronic stress, we need to check on ourselves because this can lead to high blood pressure, which can increase risk of heart and stroke. That's a big one because we want you to remember that these things can affect many different areas of your body. As we mentioned before, some of the symptoms like clammy and sweaty palms, diarrhea, difficulty sleeping, digestive problems, dizziness, feeling anxious, frequent sickness, headaches, grinding teeth, low energy, muscle tension, physical aches and pains. We are actually looking at your full body system being overloaded. And when it's overloaded, these are the signs and symptoms you see occurring. So, in the brain, headaches, you have inflammation increasing, there are headaches occurring at that time. Heart beating fast or even hard to breathe. You're unable to take deep breaths, right? It might be quick breaths that you have to take. You can't digest your foods. So your digestive system is being affected. So you see how when we are stressed or having chronic stress, all these things or signs that you're seeing, it's signs affecting some part of your body, which in turn can ultimately affect your heart. And you can be susceptible to having a heart attack or stroke. We need to fix that. One of the things that can't help us is if it is with having a negative mental health condition or conditions. So think of psychological impact of stress as well as physical impact of stress. The psychological part is, for example, depression. So if we having a negative mental health, things like depression, anxiety, anger, stress is shown up in these areas. Always dissatisfied with life, chronic stress. These are psychological impacts on our bodies. In turn, we have potential physical harming happening to your body as well. These harmful, negative mental thinking can eventually turn out to have stress showing up in sense of irregular heart rate and rhythm, increase digestive problems, as we mentioned before, increase blood pressure, increase inflammation, and reduce blood flow to the heart. We have to figure out how to change this. And I want to share with you today some coping mechanisms that can help. And next week, we will look at some physical activity information. And then we're going to follow it up with some functional nutritional tips that we can use. The American Heart Association suggests change negative mental health to positive. Think about being happy, optimistic. So don't always think about being pessimistic, but you want to think optimistic of all the things that you're going through. Be grateful, have gratitude for life and for the things that you are exposed to. Have a sense of purpose. So I one of the areas that I look at when we talk about well-being is cultivating your purpose. Knowing what are your gifts and talents and being able to share that with others helps you to cultivate your purpose in life. Being mindful. We've talked about this in November, but I'm going to bring it back up here. Being mindful that you are going through something and taking the positive route of dealing with it helps a lot in changing being mindful in terms of your mind being full and being stressed out, which then creates all these terrible symptoms that we spoke of earlier. People with positive mental health are also more likely to have health factors linked to a low risk of developing heart disease. And this information I'm sharing with you is from the American Heart Association. I will also share with you what I've learned from my ACSM program as well. But if you are having a positive mindset, then you can change physical things happening to you if you change your mindset. You can lower your blood pressure because if you change your mindset, now you're thinking more positive, you have a positive outlook on life, you can change how your blood pressure levels may be. You can change your glucose levels. You can control it. You can reduce inflammation and lower cholesterol. So, some of the things that I'm going to share, coping strategies, I want to dive straight into that right now. When we think of a positive mental health outlook, we can change stress levels and in turn reduce our ability to having heart attacks and strokes. So, some coping strategies I want to share. One is talk to someone, a family member, a friend, a psychologist, a pastor, a counselor. Talk about your stress. Talk to someone, let them help you. Let this individual listen to what's going on with you so that they can help you, one, reduce stress by being able to talk about it, and then finding solutions to help you come out of this stressful situation or this stressful thinking. Another one is problem solving techniques. Now, this person that you may talk to, they who are supporting you can provide you with problem solving techniques. What you want to do is identify the source of stress, brainstorm possible solutions, implement and evaluate the effectiveness of these particular solutions. So, I would say, for example, journaling and tracking what's going on with you, tracking what is a stressful event for you, tracking how you respond to this stressful event, and how you were able to positively come out of this stressful event. Journalize the foods that you're eating. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a later of the series. Understand how foods are affecting you, what you're eating while you're stressed out. Journalize this and help you understand how your body's responding to stress and what may be some of the things that you can do to relieve the stress. Sometimes just writing down things helps someone clarify within themselves that, okay, this may not be the best option right now. I think I need to research and get more information. Hence, finding your social support, talking to a counselor, talking to your pastor, talking to a good friend who normally would support and listen to you. This is a time you want to kind of help yourself solve the situation. Another coping strategy I want to share is meditation, or I like to do deep breathing. Now, deep breathing can be, there are many different techniques, but there is one that I have learned for stress, the 4-2-8 series, in which you take a deep breath in 4 seconds, hold it for 2 seconds, and then you release slowly for 8 second count. You could actually do it longer, hold the breath longer. Do what you can do to help you live better. There are many different breathing techniques out there. You can try them, see which one works for you. But what I know is, if I take a deep breath in right now, I'll take a deep breath in. That right there has changed how I am feeling at this point. And I'm not stressed out about anything right now, but it has changed. Well, maybe I was, but I've felt a shift. So practicing and taking time out to do some deep breathing, start off with 5 minutes and then work your way up. Everybody's different, everybody have different schedules, but work on deep breathing. Praying for me is a big deal too. Listening to Psalms helps me a lot, and learning that I am not alone when it comes to having situations occurring with me, and learning from how people come through these difficult situations. So, prayer is a big one for me as well. The other area that I will talk about is physical activity or recreational activity. And I'm just mentioning this one here because we're going to go a little more in depth next week on physical activity. But just know that one of the coping strategies we can use is adding physical activity to our lives on a constant basis. It can help us de stress and change our mindset on how we respond to stressors out there. All right. So physical activity is an important and integral part to help reduce stress and in turn reduce the risk of having heart attacks or strokes. So there you have it. Those are some of the coping strategies that I would suggest for you to try. And next week, we are going to go into talking about physical activity because it is highly recommended to help with coping with stress. We will talk a little bit more about what types of physical activities you can do, give you some recommendation on frequency, length of time doing it, how much time for the week, how much strength training you should be doing versus how much cardio you should be doing. I'm gonna give you kind of like an action plan when it comes to looking at trying to reduce stress factors and reduce stress in general. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about nutritional factors. And that could be about a lot of different foods, but I want to focus on how we can reduce sugar and add good fats to our diet to help us live better and reduce the possibility of having a heart failure or strokes. So there you have it. Thank you so much for listening in this evening, this morning, whatever time it is you're listening in. We are grateful for you keeping abreast with us and being able to share information. I am happy to do so with all of you. Do like and subscribe the FXWB New Beginnings podcast channel as we share much more information in different aspects of well-being. I saw it fit that this month we are talking about heart health, and I want you to have a healthy heart. So we are looking at areas of trying to reduce stress and have more mental clarity, as well as having a positive mindset so we can live better and probably longer. So thank you so much for listening in. Do hope you have a great rest of the week, and we will see each other soon. Bye for now.